Quick, how long do you think it would take you to ride a bicycle 1,000 miles? Would you even be able to do it in a few days, a week? How many hours per day would you be able to withstand before your rear throbbed in pain? What would give out first, your legs or your lower back? Or maybe your neck from the constant cranking to look up? What equipment would you need? Would it even be safe? Where would you sleep, poop, or eat? What would you eat? These are all questions I experienced when preparing for this monumental journey. First, let's talk about how this all came about. Why would I do this? Is it stupid and pointless? Well, that's up to you to decide. I first came up with the idea when I was driving to Florida to visit my family. I saw that Google Maps said the total distance was about 1,000 miles, and my little symbol monkey in my brain started beating when he saw the big round number, 1,000. I also was so tired of seeing the same thing on the highway. While it's great for getting places quickly, I wanted to actually see the states I was driving through, feel the energy, and experience the nuance. So I decided at that moment that I would bike the whole way down. I'm someone who really wants to do the things I say I will do. There's nothing worse than going back on your word. When I said those words, I felt an immense wave of anxiety boil out of me. That was before I realized how biblical and magnitude this entire project would be. I truly was so naive. That was in April of 2024, and for the next 8 months, I would research and plan how I would approach the ride. I looked up some of the most prolific cyclists in history and I read all of their stories. This is when I hit the first thorn to the soul. All of the cyclists I had read about had died on their bikes. One was hit by a school bus, another a speeding car, a faulty brake, a bird collision, whatever it is. That's when the veil lifted and revealed how truly dangerous this was. The looming danger made me feel as though this was a selfish and silly project. So I decided to dedicate the ride to raising money for charity. I chose St. Jude's Children's Hospital to donate all the funds I planned to raise, which brought up another qualification that I had to adapt to. I felt as if I didn't raise more money than I spent to do this, then it would ultimately be a failure, even if I completed the ride. So not only do we have to train for this ride, but we have to source equipment as cheap as possible and market the ride to potential donors. If you've seen my follower count and the price of high-end cycling gear, then you'd see the sheer difficulty of that task. So before I continue, I'd like to ask you to show your support and donate if you can to the ride through the link in the description of the video. All the funds go straight to St. Jude. None of it comes through my hands. So the first step was to find a bike. I know we're balling on a budget here, but don't worry, I know a place. Facebook Marketplace. Rare. The porch that polished turds go to get set on fire. After messaging a few people and missing out on some dope looking bikes, I ended up finding the Trek Domani AL3 for less than half of its MSRP value. $650 did not seem too bad considering all this other crap I needed to get in order to train effectively indoors during the freezing winter weather. I messaged the seller and planned to meet up with him in the Kroger parking lot in his town, about 2 hours away from me. We had just gotten over a pretty bad snowstorm, and the Kentucky roads I took led me to a hairy situation where I almost yeeted myself off a cliff. I hit the only square inch of ice on the road going around a curve, and the only tree around saved me from falling 50 feet onto jagged rocks. Luckily, the tree only destroyed my door, so I messaged the seller and pleaded to meet up again in the future. I then drove home with a busted window in 18-degree weather. My dad replaced my door with a silver junkyard door, and we were back in business. Round 2 of getting my bike. I actually made it to the meet location and met up with the seller. I really had no idea how to check if the bike was in good condition, and because of the horrible temperatures, both of us were ready to shake our hands and wrap it up. He ended up giving me a couple of extra pouches and lights on the bike that he did not advertise in the post, so that was very generous. All right, so I just got the bike and I finally fucking made it, and this is gonna be what we ride on. Like I said, I didn't know what kind of condition this bike was in, so I took it to the local bike shop where I made a new friend, Keith. I left the bike with them to make rideable for me and diagnose any issues that it might have. They said I wouldn't get it back until a few days after my first ride of biking was supposed to start. I had to adapt and pull out my stationary bike for the first couple of rides. While I was waiting on my bike to be ready, I had ordered some clip-in shoes for the bike pedals. These allow you not only to push, but pull on the pedals, recruiting more muscles, resulting in limited local fatigue. These things are so sick. They have the BOA fasteners that make such a satisfying click when you tighten them. Just listen to this. My bike was finally done, and I went to pick it up. Along with the Smart Trainer, I plan to use with an app named Zwift. Zwift is cool because it's like an old Wii Sports Resort game, but with ray tracing on. The consensus in the cycling community seemed to be that this was the most realistic training that had the highest carryover from indoor to outdoor cycling. It uses the sensors on the trainer to analyze your RPM, wattage, speed, and heart rate, using all the data and electric motor in the trainer to add or subtract resistance based on the environment or selected workout in the Zwift application. Meaning if you're going uphill, it's going to feel like you're pedaling harder. And if you're going down, it'll be easier, thus allowing you to get used to using your actual bike's gear shifts. It can also help you train at a certain power output for curated time intervals to help you target the cadences and zones that you might struggle with. With the majority of my equipment for the next few months purchased, my total expenditure had come out to $650 for the bike, $500 for the trainer, $20 a month for Zwift, $90 for maintenance, $30 for the wheel holder, or $12.90 or $13.70 factoring in 5 months of Zwift. Considering we were only at $35 donated at the time of recording this, the overwhelming threat of failure is breathing down my neck. I was going to have to devise a plan to market my fundraiser to as many people as possible. My next few weeks went like this. When I was at work, I would cold email as many people as possible in the fitness and cycling community, trying to generate donations or sponsorships. Outside of work, I would focus on my strength training with my buddy Sean and my cycling program, which I had plugged into my Google Calendar. To say I was busy and overtrained was an understatement. There were days I would wake up, eat in 10 minutes or so, and head out the door and do heavy squats, shower at the gym, and then work a 12-hour shift reaching 20 to 30,000 steps. Come home, and on the days I didn't work, I'd still squat heavy, come home and bike for an hour to an hour and a half. And that's only in week one. Or phase one of the cycling. In the first week and a half, I felt like Superman. I was doing all that and eating in a surplus to maintain strength, meaning I was putting down over 4,000 calories a day. I was balancing all this and dating. What can't I do, I thought. Then things took a turn for the worse in the weeks after.
So, that was pretty difficult. I think this is the end of the first week of the biking. This was my third day in a row biking. Just did an hour. That was really hard. Between yesterday and today, that was very difficult. Not only is the actual bike on Zwift more difficult than the stationary bike, just a steady state that I was doing. I'm still learning Zwift, which is difficult because I'm not really sure what to expect from these rides that I'm doing.
A few work obligations had me missing sleep, and getting sick made recovery stagnant. I began failing my squats, feeling awful just getting on the bike. Not to mention my ass hurt from the seat. This thing is like a carbon fiber potato chip, dude.
Then you have to pair in the challenge that my ass hurts. So I had to add some padding. Today I added 2 washcloths in my underwear. That seemed to help, but every now and then when I would stand up, it would like go in front of my genitals and then it would be really weird feeling. I'd have to adjust them multiple times.
It got so bad, I would just stand and ride to give my poor underside a break. I ended up putting a winter sock in my underwear, like a maxi pad, to protect myself. Just being honest. This helped, but I ultimately ended up purchasing a touring seat, which had much thicker padding. Another $40, putting our total at $14.10. Another obstacle I had to hurdle was getting sick. Recovery already being such a tedious balancing act, getting sick just threw a stick in the spoke. I had to skip a 30-minute short session this week because of how awful I felt. It ended up being a valuable learning lesson, as after dealing with my sleep debt, I came back and hit a successful set of squats that I felt really good about. This experience is really showing me how important recovery is, and sadly, how I'm not Superman, as much as I would like to believe I am. I hate that I have to admit that even with the unyielding willpower to do everything right, if you don't cater to the recovery process, then you're gonna crumble. That said, I can see having to adapt and manipulate the biking schedule I had previously developed with the challenges the future will hold. It's so tedious that one day I can feel like absolute garbage, fail a lift that I should be able to hit with ease, and then come back the next day in PR.
Come on, straighten up.
It's a roller coaster of failure, and sleep is mashing the controls.
Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
Right now, I'm in the first of 5 phases I initially developed on a piece of scrap while at work. This phase lasts for the first 4 weeks, and then the next 4 weeks, everything increases by a duration of 15 to 30 minutes. Meaning next phase, instead of squatting and doing an hour of biking, I'll be doing 90 minutes at least. Luckily, the strength program I'm running with Sean, my gym partner, is going to end sooner than later, and I'll have a looser schedule to recover better. As of right now, I've got 94 days left before the bike ride, or 13 and a half weeks. The strength program should be over in 3 weeks, thus giving me a solid 10 weeks to focus more on cycling and eating in a deficit to lose a significant amount of weight. Currently, I'm sitting around 240 to 245 pounds, eating what feels like a huge surplus. I don't think it's going to take much effort to lose 15 to 20 pounds in my 10 weeks after the strength program. Plus, I mean, I miss my abs, man. Really, I'm trying to channel my inner Goggins and Ross Edgley during this project to really motivate me to be my best. Now, I'm sure you've noticed the cramped setup I've got with my bike in the living room. This was not very comfortable. So on one of my weekends off, my dad and I put in a huge effort to take our unfurnished and gross basement and turn it into a new gym/office for my bike and desk. That's where we're recording right now. My dad said it best. This used to be the most depressing part of the house, and now it's the most exciting. And it's not done yet, but the potential is huge, and I can't wait for it to be fully functional. Thus, we are at the end of month 1 of training. Be sure to tune in for the next month. I think there's going to be some exciting developments. Oh yeah, look at that. And if you can, and you are able to, please visit the link in the description, or if you don't want to donate any monetary value, just share the video, like it, so that maybe some others can see it. I really appreciate you guys watching the video, and tune in next time.